In the vibrant heart of Johannesburg, South Africa, where bustling streets echoed with the lively beats of Kwaito music and the fragrant aroma of braai wafted from corner stands, there was a close-knit club of 11 friends. These men, bound by dreams and brotherhood, met regularly to share laughs, life challenges, and ambitious plans. Among them was Sipho, a man whose insatiable hunger for wealth eclipsed all else. The group had come together years ago, fresh graduates from Wits University, brimming with hope and ambition. Each member brought unique talents. Thembo was the visionary, always dreaming big. Lungelo tempered their ideas with practicality. Cabello, a financial whiz, managed their investments, and Thabo, the peacemaker, ensured harmony in the group. Every 2 weeks, they met in a small tavern on the outskirts of Soweto. The dim lighting, paired with the hum of life outside, set the scene. Laughter mingled with the soulful strumming of a guitar in the background, and the air was rich with the scent of boerewors and pap. Sipho laughed along, but his gaze often drifted to the gleaming BMWs parked outside, or the designer suits worn by wealthier patrons. He dreamed of a life beyond the modest means his bank job could afford, a life where he could snap his fingers and see his every whim fulfilled. Years passed, and the friends found varying degrees of success. Some opened businesses, others climbed the corporate ladder, and a few embraced simpler lives. Sipho, however, saw their achievements as constant reminders of his own shortcomings. One of their cherished traditions was wearing matching outfits for their annual retreat. It began as a simple gesture, bright Madiba shirts symbolizing their unity. Over time, the designs became more elaborate, reflecting their rising aspirations. Each year, Sipho contributed to the outfits with a mix of pride and resentment, as their growing extravagance drained his savings and fueled his envy. As the group prepared for their 10th anniversary trip, a luxurious retreat in Mozambique, plans for their most extravagant outfits yet were made, tailored suits with golden accents, adorned with the club's emblem. Sipho listened with excitement and dread, knowing his bank account couldn't keep up. That night, as the city lights twinkled outside his window, Sipho wrestled with his thoughts. He yearned not only to keep up, but to surpass his friends. As he lay awake, a memory surfaced. The stories his grandmother told him of sangomas who could grant unimaginable wealth. He'd always dismissed them as folklore, but desperation made the tales seem plausible. Unable to ignore the idea, Sipho scoured the internet for clues, following cryptic leads to find a powerful sangoma, Baba Khumalo. Legends whispered of the old man's abilities to summon forces beyond comprehension. Determined, Sipho made contact and received instructions to travel deep into Mpumalonga's forests to Baba Khumalo's hidden compound. Under a full moon, Sipho followed the sangoma's directions, leaving the city's comforting glow for the eerie silence of the wilderness. The narrow dirt path wound through dense foliage, and shadows danced in his headlights. Strange whispers filled the air, sending chills down his spine. Finally, he arrived at a clearing. The sangoma's compound was a surreal sight, clay walls adorned with ancient patterns, animal skulls mounted above the entrance, and the air heavy with incense and mystery. Baba Khumalo sat cross-legged in the courtyard, his white, sightless eyes seeming to pierce through Sipho. "I've been expecting you," the sangoma said in a voice as deep as thunder. Sipho trembled as he knelt before the man. "Can you help me?" he whispered. The sangoma smiled, revealing sharpened teeth. "Help? No, young one. I offer paths. But the choice and the consequences are yours alone." 3 calabashes were laid before Sipho. Baba Khumalo's words resonated in the quiet. The first calabash holds the power of deceit. With it, you'll master manipulation, but your integrity will wither. The second holds the power of control. You'll command others, but love and trust will elude you. The third, the path of sacrifice, offers instant wealth, but at a grave cost. Sipho's heart raced as he contemplated his options. The third calabash drew him, its promise of quick riches overpowering his doubts. "I choose this," he declared, his voice unsteady but resolute. Baba Khumalo's smile widened. "So be it. The ritual that followed was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Chants filled the air as smoke swirled into eerie shapes. When it ended, Baba Kumalo handed Sipho a small wooden box and instructions. For your club's journey, provide matching outfits, but do not join them. Once they leave, open this box and speak the words within. Wealth will find you, but the cost will be heavy. Sipho nodded, clutching the box tightly. As he returned to Johannesburg, a mix of anticipation and dread consumed him. He had set his ambitions in motion, but the path ahead was cloaked in shadows. The weeks leading up to the annual retreat were a blur for Adu. His mind raced with a mix of exhilaration and dread as he followed the Babileo's instructions to the letter. He arranged everything meticulously, from the travel plans to the matching outfits, ensuring that every detail was flawless. The suits were the pinnacle of luxury, custom-tailored from imported fabric with intricate gold embroidery bearing the club's emblem. When Adu presented them to his friends, their reactions were, as he'd hoped, astonished and grateful. "You've outdone yourself this time, Adu," Olashade said, clapping him on the back. "This is going to be our best retreat yet." Adu forced a smile, masking the storm within him. "It's nothing really," he said. "I just wanted this to be special for all of us." The destination was a luxurious resort in a neighboring country, nestled in the heart of a sprawling jungle. It promised opulence and tranquility, a place none of them had visited before. The excitement among the club members was palpable as the day of departure drew near. But Adu's heart grew heavier with each passing day. The morning of the retreat arrived, and the air buzzed with excitement as the club members gathered at the bus station, dressed in their matching suits. The sight of them, laughing and posing for pictures, should have filled Adu with pride. Instead, it felt like a knife twisting in his gut. "Adu, aren't you coming?" Tund asked, frowning as he noticed Adu's absence among the group. "You've been the driving force behind this trip." Adu had prepared his excuse. "I wish I could, but something urgent came up at work." "I'm so sorry to miss it, but I'll make it up to you all." His friends protested, but Adu stood firm, feigning regret. Eventually, they relented, boarding the bus with cheerful waves and promises to bring back stories and photos. As the bus disappeared down the road, Adu's hands trembled. He pulled out the small wooden box the Babalao had given him, its surface warm and alive beneath his fingers. The old man's instructions echoed in his mind. "After your friends have departed, open the box and speak the words I have taught you." Adu returned to his apartment, locked the door, and sat cross-legged on the floor. The wooden box rested in his lap, pulsing faintly with an unnatural warmth. His heart pounded as he opened it, revealing a bundle of dried herbs, a vial of dark liquid, and a parchment inscribed with strange symbols. He placed the herbs on a small plate and set them alight. A pungent smoke filled the room, making his eyes water. Next, he uncorked the vial and poured its contents onto the parchment. The liquid shimmered, the symbols glowing faintly, as if alive. Finally, he spoke the words the Babalao had taught him, his voice trembling but resolute. As he finished, the smoke swirled violently, coalescing into strange, shifting forms. A low hum filled the air, growing louder until it seemed to resonate in Adu's very bones. Then silence. Adu stared at the smoldering remains of the ritual, his breath ragged. Had it worked? Was the price already paid? Doubt gnawed at him, but he forced himself to trust in the Babileo's promises. 3 days later, Adu awoke to the sound of his phone buzzing incessantly. He groggily reached for it, but as he read the messages flooding his screen, his blood turned to ice. Tragic accident. Bus plunged into ravine. No survivors. Adu's heart stopped. He scrolled through the news reports in disbelief. The images on the screen showed the mangled wreckage of the bus that had carried his friends. The retreat had turned into a nightmare. Numb with shock, Adu barely registered the calls and messages offering condolences. His friends, his brothers, were gone. The weight of their loss crushed him, but beneath the grief lurked something darker, the chilling realization that the Babileo's warning had come to pass. The wealth you seek will come to you, But every fortune has its foundation. In the weeks that followed, strange events unfolded. Adu's bank account began to swell inexplicably. He received unexpected promotions, lucrative opportunities, and gifts from strangers. His life transformed overnight, everything he had dreamed of and more. But it came at a cost he could never have imagined. As he sat alone in his now lavish apartment, surrounded by opulence, the laughter of his friends haunted his mind. Their faces appeared in his dreams, their eyes accusing and filled with betrayal. The wealth he had gained felt like a heavy chain, binding him to the darkness of his choice. One night, unable to bear the weight of his guilt, Adu returned to the Babalao's compound. The old man greeted him with a knowing smile. "I did as you instructed," Adu said, his voice hollow. "I have the wealth, but at what cost?" The Babalao's white eyes bore into him. "Every choice has its price, young one. You desired wealth above all else, and so the spirits delivered. But remember, wealth built on sacrifice is never without consequence. What do I do now?" Adu whispered, desperation in his voice. The Babalao's smile faded. "That, my boy, is for you to decide. You chose this path. Now you must walk it." The days turned into weeks, and the weight of his friends' deaths pressed harder on Adu. His newfound wealth, while extraordinary, felt hollow and cursed. Lavish gifts, luxury cars, and a sprawling mansion did nothing to fill the void left by his guilt. He had everything he ever wanted, except peace. The dreams grew worse. Every night, Adu saw his friends in the wreckage of the bus, their voices echoing through the smoke. "Why, Adu? Why did you let this happen?" He woke in cold sweats, clutching his chest, unable to breathe. During the day, strange occurrences began to plague him. Mirrors cracked when he looked into them. Shadows moved unnaturally in the corners of his vision. Objects fell from shelves without warning. The final straw came when he saw Tun's face reflected in his wine glass, lips forming the words, "You cannot escape." Terrified, Adu returned to the Babalao, determined to find a way out of the nightmare. The old man was waiting for him, as though he had known Adu would return. "Babalao," Adu pleaded, falling to his knees. "I can't live like this. I'll give it all back. The wealth, the success, just bring my friends back. Please." The Babalao sighed, his face unreadable. "The spirits do not deal in reversals, young one. The dead cannot return. But there is a way to ease your suffering. Tell me," Adu begged. "I'll do anything." "You must balance the scales," the Babalao said. "Your wealth was built on sacrifice. To atone, you must offer it all, your riches, your comforts, your very life if necessary, to a cause that honors their memory." Adu hesitated, his heart pounding. "You mean give everything away?" "Everything," the Babalao confirmed. "Only then can the spirits be appeased and the curse lifted." Adu spent the next months dismantling the life he had built. He sold his mansion, his cars, and his possessions. Every penny went to charities, scholarships, and projects that would benefit the families of his deceased friends and their communities. He visited the families personally, confessing his role in their loss. Their anger and grief were a storm he had to weather, but he accepted it without complaint. Each act of atonement chipped away at his guilt, though the scars remained. As his wealth disappeared, so did the hauntings. The shadows grew still, the cracked mirrors stayed intact, and his dreams became less vivid. For the first time in months, Adu felt the stirrings of peace. By the end of the year, Adu had nothing to his name but a small apartment and a simple job. He no longer sought wealth or status. Instead, he focused on building a life rooted in meaning and service. One evening, as he walked home from a community project, a strange sense of calm settled over him. The air was warm, and the setting sun bathed the streets in gold. For the first time since the retreat, he felt free. In his heart, Adu knew he could never undo the choices that led to his friends' deaths. But he could honor their memories by living a life of humility and purpose. As he reached his door, he thought he heard Tun's voice, soft and forgiving. "You've done well, Adu. Rest now." Adu smiled, tears in his eyes. The journey had been brutal, but he had found redemption. The curse had lifted, and with it, the weight of his past.